Welcome to the Interior Analysis Podcast. I am your host for this one, Jelani T. Kelly.
I'm Evan Westman.
I'm David Jones.
And we are discussing Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, the sequel to the 2018 movie, Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. 10 out of 10. This was directed by Joaquin DeSantos, Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson. Writers were Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. They worked together this time on this one. I think it was just Phil Lord on the first one, writing, and Dave Callahan as well as another writer. It's number one. When I wrote my notes, I think that was Sunday after I saw it for the second time. Number one in popularity on IMDb. 1,000 people working on the production. 240 characters, 6 universes. Budget of $100 million.
I think it's 150 actually. I saw.
Google told me 100 million. 100.
IMDb says 150. So.
Well, who you gonna trust? One of them.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a large number, whatever it is.
It's a big old. It's in the triple millions. Increasing box office of, when I checked again Sunday, 285 million domestic, 209 million international, for a total of 494 million worldwide. So I'm guessing it likely broke the 500 million by now. But it's safe to say it made its money back and a little bit more. We got a lot to talk about, but let's get into some intro reactions. Whoever wants to start.
David, how many times have you seen it by now?
I haven't gone past 4.
Oh, okay. I wondered what you'd be up to.
More than I've seen it.
Only 4. 4 in 6 days. It was a good
God.
time. Yeah, and it would have been less than 6 days, but I had to go to a concert in between, so that took my Saturday.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure there was like something on Monday with like my family that like, what a waste of time. I should have been watching Spiderverse. But yeah, no, it was so just like overstimulating the first time, just like the first movie was. Like the animation, like I'll never be able to watch a Spider-Verse movie the first time and not just be overwhelmed by the animation. So that was like my overwhelming initial reaction, was just like, holy crap, how I didn't even think they could make the animation better, but they did. And the way they blended the styles, especially in Gwen's world, it's like truly insane.
The colors.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they were able to up the ante with the animation. Like, because the first one is like so much different than any other animated movie we've ever seen, and now this is like even more. And we've seen a lot of influence. Like, I'm sure you guys saw the trailer for the Ninja Turtles movie.
Yep.
Yes, can't wait.
That is like definitely taking influence from Spiderverse in the animation style. And Puss in Boots, the movie from last year, that definitely drew a bit from it.
I still didn't see it. The Last Wish. I think I saw the first one. Wasn't that with Humpty Dumpty?
I haven't seen the first one, but Last Wish is the new one.
Okay.
Yeah, Last Wish slaps. I haven't seen the new or the original either.
All right. I saw it in theaters twice. The second time was on Father's Day. Sorry, Dad. I did still spend time with them, though. The first time I saw it was with my dad and brother. Also on a Sunday morning, the opening weekend. This movie is 10 out of 10, in my opinion, just like the first. Even on its own, it's just a part 1. Is it better than the first? Shut up. They're both great movies, made by some great people, some of the same people. And also a fun fact, the spider chase scene took 4 years to make. Damn.
Do we know more details on that? Like, where they just kind of...
That was an IMDb trivia fact.
Okay. Because, I mean, there was not much more than 4 years between these two movies, so...
The movie was ready, they just had to animate this. That's what took
that one
4
scene.
years.
We can put it out tomorrow if you guys want, but... See, that's why I wonder, like, what does that mean when they say 4 years? Does that mean... I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have intro stuff, Evan?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters twice. I went, I think the Sunday of opening weekend, and then I went again last night to refresh before this. If this is not my favorite movie of the year, then I cannot wait for what is my favorite movie of the year, because this was so good. This was my most anticipated.
Blue Beetle. That'll be a favorite.
That would be an even bigger shock if Blue Beetle ends up being my favorite of this year.
Oh, no. Sony's Craven.
Oh, God.
There you go.
Oh, I haven't seen the trailer for
Aaron
that yet.
Taylor
I
Johnson.
saw that it dropped.
He got radioactive lion blood in his system.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I saw the trailer today. I don't know what I was watching. It looked cool. It was just action, though. And he's, like, an animal.
So the first time I saw it, my theater was packed. There were a lot of good reactions. The ending, like, the first time I was like, wait, oh, come on, they're going to end it there?
Yep.
Like, in the theater, I just went, bro, like,
Damn.
really loud, and, like, the rest of my theater was all reacting to. I like that they end it there, though. But, like, initially I was just like, come on, you're leaving so much for us. I was thinking after the first time, like, a little bit less perfect than the first one. I think after the second viewing, equally perfect to the first one. I think right now I kind of feel about it the same way I feel about Glass Onion compared to Knives Out, where, like, I like the newer one better because it's fresh and, like, it's just more of the thing I like and it's still exciting. But I wonder if in, like, 5 or 10 years I'm going to revisit both of them and be like, yeah, the first one is, like, better. TBD, of course, because it's still pretty new.
Still in theaters.
Still in theaters, and, you know, same Glass Onion is still only a few months old. I love Hobie so much. Daniel, the Spider-Punk, Daniel Kaluuya, he's, like, the coolest, and I want to hang out with him.
I needed subtitles for him, though.
I did as well. I missed a lot of his dialogue.
The first time I did. The second time I was like, oh, that's what he was saying.
He has such good asides, though.
Yeah.
Like when the thing's like sinking into the spot, he goes, "It's a metaphor for capitalism." It was so good. I liked the art style changes, but the one gripe I have with it, and it's not really a gripe, it was just how it hit for me. The changing backgrounds in Gwen's dimension some of the time, because they don't do it all the time, but particularly the scene at the end with her dad, when, like, it's switching with each shot. I know what it was going for, but every time it happened, it hit, like, the shot in Scott Pilgrim where Envy Adams goes, "Your hair's getting shaggy," and then the next shot he has a hat on, like, inexplicably. It felt like that every time they did it. Very, very minor gripe.
Well, it's wrong. You're wrong.
I like it as a choice. It was a little distracting for me.
Well, that's your problem. You're wrong.
It is my problem, but, you know, just this is reactions. I was glad we got extra attention on Miles' mom. I think we're gonna get into that, but that was, like, something I was hoping for. I also noticed last night. This does the Silence of the Lambs fake out.
Yup.
Yes, it does. It
yeah.
does it so well.
It sure does.
And the first, like, I didn't clock it the first time because I was just so, like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, when I was watching it the first time, but then last night I was like, wait, this is the Silence of the Lambs. Like, because we talked about when we did that episode, like, I don't think that hit for me. This hit.
There's hints there too.
Yeah.
Like the second rewatch really helped me because it shows you when he first uses the go home machine. It says Earth 42,
Big old close
Yeah.
and then you could also tell with the colors of the rain. The rain is different. I think his is like, well, his background is red. His rain is green. But Gwen's is like purple and pink, and then where Miguel is, which is where he thinks Miles is back on 1610, I believe, is a different color. So there are things there to let you know he not there.
Yeah, and his room is
home.
packed up differently and organized differently, and his mom, instead of having hazel eyes, has green eyes.
I didn't even.
Oh, I
realize
didn't
that.
clock that. I saw what I thought was a mistake the first time, and then last night I realized they didn't make it. Because at first I was like, as soon, like, after they did the reveal, I was thinking, oh, they cheated because she would have noticed his hair immediately. But then watching it last night, she does say immediately.
Yeah.
And I just missed it the first time. The only other thing with that scene, I think it's kind of funny. I don't remember if it got a laugh in my theater, but just the speech that Miles gives his mom. Like,
I beat them all.
I mean, yeah, so I was thinking, like, in context, like, if like that was his real mom and if, like, the same person he had, like, the deep conversation with earlier, like, is she thinking he just, like, if he's been gone for, what, like, 2 hours, she must think that he's just, like, did a bar crawl and got in a bunch of fights with a bunch of randoms. Like, that's how that sounds. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny.
Also, I think we'll talk more about them as characters as this. It'll be David's topic. But I didn't realize post on, I think it was Reddit, where somebody's theorizing Gwen and Miles are connected deeper because her spidey sense goes off that he's in the wrong universe. Spidey sense is supposed to work for yourself, not for others. And hers goes off letting her know that he's in the wrong universe. So I'm excited to see where they go with this spidey sense thing. I think that's a hint towards something later. I don't know. In the next movie.
I'll be interested to see. And there's enough, like, intentionality. Like, you have one note about it for later, and not to, like, steal your thunder with it, but I've also seen that from you, and I think it was slightly before the movie came out. Like, the shot in the first movie where Miles meets the original Peter Parker from his universe, and his background changes from green and purple to blue and red.
Yep.
Showing that he was supposed to be Prowler and now is Spider-Man. Like,
Yep.
If something that small has intention that carries over into this sequel, I can definitely see something like that being true for the third one.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot to go into. We have 4.5 topics. Let's start with the half topic, mini topic of, I think this needs to be talked about at least a little bit, the soundtrack/score. First, I googled soundtrack/score because I thought David was making fun of me in the group chat.
I wasn't. It was an authentic question. And then you were like, you would know. And I was like, what do you mean if I would know?
The score is original music that is specific to the film. In contrast, a soundtrack is a collection of carefully chosen songs to be included in the movie. That's what Google said. So for whatever reason, some movies have them in one playlist, but for whatever reason, these two things, the soundtrack and score, are separate playlists on YouTube. I found the Daniel Pemberton one first, the score, and I could have sworn I heard lyrics at some point during the movie, and then I found the Metro Boomin. Sorry, there's no G. I just wanted to mention just two songs. There's still a lot of good songs in this movie, and right now I have, like, I want to say over half of Daniel Pemberton's score in my watch later. I plan to add to my phone, and then at least half of Metro Boomin's stuff with all of those artists he worked with, collaborated with for the other songs, the lyrical songs. Intro, and then also / start a band. It has the same kind of ending, because intro is, start a band is it's a lot of intro, but it has, like, I think the Prowler's theme thrown in there as well, because we just met Miles Morales' Prowler. Intro is obviously the song playing in the beginning with Gwen's narration. Start a band, it crescendos at the very end, and that's when I knew the movie was going to end, because I was like, oh, I remember now. Somebody said, I read online or something, somebody said that this was supposed to be a part one of part two, of a two-part thing. Intro and start a band slaps. The building music during intro played against Gwen's narration got me hyped for whatever reason, especially the second time I watched. I was just like, oh, we about to get into this. And then the intro sort of played back at the end and with start a band. like I said, it was the crescendo of the intro, but the themes of the other characters, like Miles Morales' Prowler. I think in the movie, I heard Miguel's and Gwen's theme, I think, thrown in there as well. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that is just so hype.
Do you have any standouts from the soundtrack?
Self-Love and Am I Dreaming? I also like Annihilate. Well, I'll talk about Self-Love in a minute if you guys had anything to add to what I was talking about or any songs you wanted to mention, because I don't want to just monologue.
My shout outs for the soundtrack are, in no particular order, Mona Lisa, Hummingbird, Am I Dreaming, except this is a particular order. The top one for me is Annihilate, especially where it's placed in the movie. Like, it's just hype, so love that.
Remind me where that one is, because a lot of them are blending together for me.
Wow.
Annihilate is right after him and his mom have the heart-to-heart, and she's like, go.
Oh, when
but
he's
come
following
back.
Gwen.
Yep, and then he swings, and then it starts, and it's like, oof. And they cut it off right before Lil Wayne's verse, but Lil Wayne's verse goes so hard, and it's incredible. When he says he gave the ops arachnophobia, that's incredible. And then for the score, there's a lot of it I really like. I like Vulture Meets Culture, Spider-Man 2099. Guggenheim. My Name is Miles Morales, I love. Rio and Miles is like super sweet. Like when you just listen to that isolated, it's almost like sad. I'm like, oh my god, go back to your mom. Moombahton Madness.
I like Clock Tower as well.
Ooh, Nueva York Train Chase. Yeah, fire.
Yep.
I just should get through all of it. I've been listening to it, like, especially throughout today, but I haven't gotten through everything, and I haven't fully been tracking, like, which song is which when I'm listening to it, like, not looking at the titles. There are some that I like. I'm not sure exactly which ones. It also doesn't help that Metro announces himself on, like,
all of them.
Most of the songs, so that's kind of helping with the blending together.
Yeah.
At the moment, sorry to, like, choose sides, but I side with the first one, soundtrack-wise, right now. This one felt more lo-fi, and the first movie had more, like, bangers. Not that one is better than the other. I just enjoyed more songs from the first one. But,
yeah,
in fairness, several of them took a while to grow on me, so maybe that'll be the case here, too.
I'm just now adding What's Up Danger and the Prowler's theme, Don't Attack Me, to my playlist. I didn't have them in my playlist.
If you don't have it yet, my favorite from the first movie is Memories. It wasn't initially, and it barely shows up in the movie. I think it's when it's only for like 10 seconds, I think, in the car ride with his dad at the beginning. But the whole song is like, it's such a good song. Memories by Thutmose. I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Also Gwen's theme.
Yes.
From the score. That goes hard. That goes hard. And then with the I like Guggenheim because it throws all of their themes together. Guggenheim.
I do really love how these movies have really committed to giving a lot of characters their own, like, little musical motifs and themes. Because, like, that's just, it's such a cool way to do it, and I feel like it's a bit of a lost art. Like, I saw a video about a week ago that was the portal scene from Endgame, but it adds in, like, it puts all of the individual heroes' themes, like, during their entrance, but none of them are really distinct, and I was like, this would be cool in concept, except that nobody remembers any of these characters' themes because they're all kind of same-ish, and, like, that is so not the case. Like, when, like, they use I think it's Miguel's theme in the original trailer, and when it first hits in the movie, I was like, oh yes, like, it was already getting me excited just from the marketing, because that theme is so cool.
But he's also like a cool character. Like, even though he's an antagonist, like, he's built like an action figure.
He really is. He's got the elbow things.
He didn't look like that at the end of Into the Spiderverse, like in the after post credit scene.
Swole.
Nah, crazy. He got jacked. He got, like, traps and everything. Like, it's crazy.
But that was like the cool part of the design. Like he looked the most like traditional hero-y, you know, like
Yeah.
the broad shoulders and those colors and like the strong chin.
Yeah.
So for him to go evil, it was cool. I hope that like works on a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I also really like, this is not super connected, but bringing up him reminded me of Oscar Isaac playing him. And the voice acting across the board in this
Yeah.
is just so on point.
It's
like,
crazy.
Where has
Talk
this
about
been?
it.
Because like
Crazy.
star-studded cast, and certainly this is far from the only animated movie to have like a star-studded voice cast, but every other one that I can think of, everyone is just actually good at voice acting here. Like, you can get the best actor ever, but like Anya Taylor-Joy did not bring anything to the Mario
Princess
movie that
Peach.
Nope.
yeah, and no shade, she's an amazing actress and she deserves to phone it in once in a while for a paycheck, but like that role did not need her. Whereas like even the tiniest roles in this, it's like every voice actor was cast perfectly.
Yeah. I'm cool with it because I don't remember where I heard or read this, but people were getting upset about these big movies not hiring actual like trained voice actors for some of these characters, but nah, they brought it like actual voice actors this time around. I'm not saying the first movie was bad, even like the first movie is my favorite movie, so I have no complaints with the voice acting, but everything's just ramped up, and we'll talk about that as well. Like they brought it, everybody brought it. I also wanted to mention Self-Love. I think that's my favorite from the soundtrack. I was trying, I think I read a Reddit post, surprise, where somebody was asking, am I the only one that's stuck on Am I Dreaming and Self-Love? And that made me like realize, oh, so there is there is a soundtrack separate from the score, like music lyrics. I listened to Self-Love for the first time on YouTube, and I was like, why is this making me sad? I was trying to figure out why it was making me sad while going through the two separate playlists. I thought this was the song I was playing when Miles and Gwen were talking upside down here on the clock tower. Then, when I watched the movie the second time, I realized it was a song playing right up until Gwen's Peter was killed. And it made me sadder hearing it. Because we didn't even know that Peter, but it still hurt. And then for that to be followed by Gwen's dad, George, trying to arrest her, yeah, that sucked. Also, I used to relate to the guy. I think that's what also hurt me. I used to relate to the guy in the song the singer Coy Leray is talking about. So double oof. I can't even listen to it right now because I've been in a good mood. So I'm gonna stay away from that for a bit. Yeah, shout out to all the musical artists. They brought it. I thought it was worth mentioning as a mini topic. You guys got anything else for it?
That's all.
Yeah, not for me.
All right, let's get into the big boy topics. I wrote a lot of notes for this one. I think it's the most notes I've ever written for an episode. There's a lot to get through. Let's start with growing up. This is about Miles and his journey, his arc. Miles' biggest problem in this movie is his parents being on him due to them not knowing he's Spider-Man. Like, he has responsibility and he's trying to do so many things at once. He doesn't feel like he can tell them, and the only ones that ever understood him were Gwen, Peter B, and the others, which is why he tried so hard to find them. There was a comment I read that stated Miles clearly wants to be an artist with how much he does with any free time that he has, and he draws Gwen a lot. He's even, quote-unquote, suffering a bit with his grade in it compared to AP Physics with an A+. I don't remember what denomination of A it was. But compared to the A- in art, I think it's because he wants to find, or this is because he wants to find the others in the other dimensions. This part is obvious. They don't know he's talking about, I don't think I caught it the first time, but they don't know his parents don't know he's talking about finding the other spider people. It's kind of in your face. I don't know how I didn't catch it, but
I had the same thing because it was really obvious to me on second viewing, but
yeah.
first time. I mean, the thing is though, it does work on both levels because
Yeah.
I think he is actually talking about Princeton and the Spider People at the same time.
That's why it worked. His parents seeing him interact with Gwen makes them take their foot off the gas a little. Like they realize, dude he don't got no friends. He does. They just go to a different dimension, or they moved out of town, like he says. I also believe what helped them ease up on him a bit was Miles' conversation with his dad as Spider-Man. Like right after the Spot kicks himself into himself. He even uses Spider-Man's quote I think it's at the end about spreading his wings. And he tried to fist bump him and he left him hanging. But yeah, do you guys have some other things? I don't want to just keep rambling. Do you want to interject with anything?
For me, I like the element, and I don't want to step into it too much because it does come into my topic, but I like how you can trace Miles and Gwen respectively having to like grow up in their own way, and like how their inability to confront that in the first place is what kind of is a catalyst for their conflict throughout the film and all the detriment that happens. So well crafted.
Miles, I didn't even realize, like, I want you to also expand on, that's why I think your topic would work good next, David. I want you to expand on what you see with Gwen's growing up as opposed or in comparison to Miles, because I only focused on Miles with this theme. I didn't even realize that she was also going through, I knew she had an arc, but I didn't realize she was going through the same theme of growing up.
Well, I think it's like different flavors of the same thing because they both of them have major conflicts with their parents, but she basically realizes the fear that Miles is dealing with of like, how bad is this gonna be if I reveal that I'm Spider-Man? And the movie opens with how bad it can be. So, and I don't think I'd noticed that parallel until reading your notes for this topic, but it's a strong comparison between them. We do have a moment with Miles when he goes when he goes to the wrong universe, and he does tell his mom. So it ultimately doesn't go anywhere, but it is a big character moment where he's not afraid to tell them anymore. So
It's because he beat them all.
He beat them all. But we still have to see what the fallout of that is going to be. Or potentially, maybe we do end this trilogy if it ends up being just a trilogy with him not doing that. I think there's a way that could work. Personally, I'm anticipating that he will actually tell them, but I don't think it's necessary for a good ending.
Well, I wanted to mention real quick, Miles has a thing with people calling him a kid in this movie. It doesn't become super prevalent until Peter B. Parker starts calling him that. They think he doesn't understand because he's a kid when they reveal, like, he gotta let his father die because it's canon. But all he wants to do is save his father and save his world. And how can anyone blame him? You sure can't. I sure can't. If you can, see a doctor. Belonging is a subtopic in this. Rio gives Miles a speech about not letting these people tell him he doesn't belong and not to forget where he comes from, where he came from. She thinks she's talking to him about Princeton, but it comes in the form of Spider Society, and Miguel spits it in his face. He's the original anomaly, and his friends knew. And this translates into the scene where he's swinging back to where he thinks is home, but is really Earth 42, where he's even questioning if he's making the right decision with the images of Spider-Noir, Ham, and Penny playing in his mind, and who can't relate to feeling out of place. And he is literally out of place because it's not his Earth.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the speech with his mom, because I may have already mentioned it, but I did not clock that on the first viewing. And I don't know if I would have on the second, but I read your note before going to see it the second time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, every line of that ends up like translating to how the spider people treat him.
Mm-hmm.
Speech hit really hard both times either way.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the best scenes. I think there's a bit of the belonging motif with Gwen too. We have the mirror start and end with I always wanted to be in a band, and then, you know, forming her own.
She starts a band. Start a band. One of the best songs in the score.
Yep. But I think part of her struggle, and it's a little bit hard to track first time around, and we'll get into that a bit more in the next topic, I think. But she kind of has this balance of whether she identifies with and like is on board with the spider people's mission, where like the community of it is clearly she likes that part of it but disagrees with their ideology, mainly Miguel's. I think it's a little bit hard to track first time, but we kind of see her waffling with that a bit and then committing at the end. It's just another place where I think the theme shows up.
Did you say waffling?
Yeah, that's a word. It's a proper use of that word.
You added an ing to a noun.
I've heard it used before. Waffling is a perfectly normal word. Well, I don't know normal, but it's real. That is a proper use of the word waffling. I don't know if it has anything to do with breakfast food.
Fail to make up one's mind.
I never waffle over whether or not I'm gonna eat waffles.
I sometimes do. Pancakes or pancakes with abs?
Pancakes with abs.
I don't like it. You're not allowed to use that word anymore. I'm going to add that to the list of words you can't say in even rated R movies.
Waffle. Good luck. Good luck with that. I don't know of any movies that use it anyway, so it's not like released.
Because it's not a real word, that's why.
It is a real word.
You made that up.
No, whatever. I swear it's a real word.
But for the motif of belonging, I'll add that there's a very quick line with Spider-Bite when she meet her, and he's like, "Where are you?" And she's like, "I'm in my dimension." And they show her, and she's like, "I'm in a VR headset. So it's like a projection. I'm not really here." And then like you hear like her parents yelling, and then it cuts to her, and she's like, "It's better than home, though." So there is really that like central theme that all of these Spider-Men are loners.
Well, and on that note too, Hobie ties into that pretty directly with his whole personality, and they kind of play it as a joke, but his whole thing is like, I don't like labels, I don't like consistency, I don't take orders from people. That is that ties in directly with this. Like as soon as the spider people are going against his code, his beliefs, he never stands by them.
Yep. And then he quits.
Legend.
All right, I just wanted to end it with the quote, "Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm going to do my own thing." All right, next topic.
That gives me chills. Every time I saw it, that moment gave me chills.
He's so cool. He's so cool.
Like, that's how you know it's really well written, because it's like, oh, this isn't a mistake. If this is hitting every time the perfect way, it's
It's so cool.
great. I'm gonna do my own thing. And it's like, bah! It's just like, and then, oh yeah.
He had a plan. He lured all of them away. Just like, oh, it's so cool that he blasts them away. Well, since we're on the topic of growing up with both Miles and Gwen, let's jump to David's topic of the dual protagonists of Miles and Gwen.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool that they started this movie off in Gwen's POV, and I thought that, like, really, for me, subverted my expectation. I think it worked on a lot of audience members, because everyone in my audience, like, each time they, like, kind of took, like, a collective, like, huh, and, like, sat back in their seats. Like, they were like, this is different. Where's Miles? So I thought that was super effective, and, like, kind of the stuff we've talked about with her dad. I really love her whole story with her dad. I think it's really, like... We talked about this with Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know a team of writers or filmmakers that are this efficient with just like exposition and information in the beginning of films or for characters than this group making these films. I think if you didn't see Into the Spider-Verse and you're coming right into Across the Spider-Verse, they really establish Gwen for you. And if you did see Into and you may have forgotten some things, it really like reestablishes her for you, and it adds on some things if you did remember, and it gives you some context and fleshes it out a lot more. So it's really cool and really well done. And I think like the whole her learning like that when you take off the mask, someone as close to you as your dad could still want to arrest you was such like an important moment. And I think like then having her leave and we cut right to Miles, like it's just each scene, the way they structure it, they give you just enough and then they move on, and then you learn about like before we leave who these people are and what they're doing, and then we cut away and we get Miles, and we get the thing we just got with Gwen. We get to reestablish him and see what did we miss in the past year and some change. And then we see him dealing with his villain of the week, or what is not even a villain of the week at this point. And he then, you know, that becomes a whole, this is an anomaly, and this becomes a reason for Gwen to be there. But then this is where this conflict kind of beautifully starts, where they're like star-crossed lovers that just can't be, because when they're together, they just cause issues for each other. And I love their whole moment upside down with like the city against them.
I think that's my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh my god, so
they're just
good.
so cute together. Also,
it's adorable,
right? Like you just root for them so hard. Like you really are just like, please end up together, more than any spider duo couple in any of the movies before.
Yeah.
And I just find it really, I found like her being in that universe, the reason they give her, it just felt so natural, especially when it comes to like the later reveal of like, well, I really wasn't there for you, I was doing a job. And like it all just really worked for me. And I think like the scene with them upside down, and Gwen tells Miles like, don't ever tell your family, because he's like debating like, well, what if I come out to my parents and like they are okay with it, and she's like, don't, like there's nothing good that will come from it. And then we see like a couple scenes later, like the scene with his mom, and he's about to tell her, and then he's like, I'm sorry I was late, I'll bring a better cake next time. And she's like, Miles, go. And she has that whole speech about, you know, belonging, and people are going to tell you, but like just don't get lost. And like people, there's going to be people out there who don't root for you like we do, and like remember that. So like for that to come back later, all the ways we talked about, was really effective. And I really like after that moment, he then like goes and chases after Gwen. Like there's just not a wasted beat. And then in his chase after Gwen, he's like gets the kind of like, what is this? Why is she doing this? Where is she going? What is this stuff? And then it gets more about the spot, and he's like, oh my god, my issue is not as small as I thought. He is now definitely a villain of the week. And then like we get into Spider-Man India, which was great. And then I really, really love like by the time we get to like the Spider Society and all of its kind of like culminating, I really love like they don't waste the cute relationship. Like they still show like Miles is getting jealous of Hobie, Gwen's getting jealous of Spider Bite, like the scenes where she pulls him away from her because Miles isn't listening. Like there's just little bits like that. And I also love the whole like when they're hanging upside down, I forgot to bring this up when I was in that scene, when they're hanging upside down and she's like, or he tells her we're the same in the ways that matter. And I love that they both use music to calm their nerves and their anxiety. Like in the first one when he's stuck on that like light, and then he sings.
Oh, I hadn't noticed
Sunflower.
that. Yeah.
And then in this one, before like she has to go and deal with the helicopter in the Guggenheim, she's like,
the drumstick with the helicopter. Oh, I love that shot.
Yeah, and it like silences her nerves, and then she can go. So I love like they are showing on a deeper level. It's not just because they were bit by a spider, but there's some human innate like thing about them that they're similar.
And that's
so I really love that.
That's why their spider sense is connected.
Okay, I see that.
They're just on that wavelength. They're on the same wavelength.
They're vibing.
They're vibing so hard.
Bro, I don't know why it is this way. I'd be invested in these animated characters more than people in live action couples. I don't know why. It was like this for me with this anime called Cyberpunk Edge Runners. It was on Netflix, and you want these two characters to succeed, and they do for a bit. And spoilers, it ends tragically for one of them. And yeah, it I don't know. I just be rooting for these animated characters so hard.
Well, I think part of it is that you can do stuff like the couple things we were mentioning, where you can just make those parallels in a way that you can't in live action and kind of put us in their headspace. And I feel like in animation you don't sacrifice chemistry at all. Like you don't lose the chemistry between actors.
Yeah.
But also just like I don't know if this has anything to do with the difference of medium, but like the writing is just there in this in a way that it so rarely like how many movies have we seen where it's like, okay, I guess these two hot actors are getting together, because we've brought it up a bunch of times for different movies. It's like, yeah, I guess that was the thing.
I really liked
you have to
the Amazing Spider-Man chemistry between Garfield and Emma Stone. That's, I think, the closest.
I'll raise you the Before trilogy, but that trilogy is literally just about two people's relationship. So
The Before trilogy?
Case. Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight.
That doesn't count. It's romance.
Yeah, but even so, like, it sells it, but it also does nothing but sell that relationship.
Yeah. It starts with Gwen. We got the whole action. It's like 20 minutes, I think. I don't know if is it that long? It feels like that. Before we even get to the intro scene with Miles. It's a long time. It's at least
10.
It's way more than 10. Or is it just fast paced? I don't know. It's a long time. He has an arc, she has an arc. I thought it was just making up with their dad, but I think that's just the surface arc, the very blatant arc in her face. And his arc is doing his own thing, as he puts. The stories combine when she visits him in the clock tower scene. Both times I saw this scene in theaters, I forgot to breathe and move. I am not exaggerating, and I don't know why.
You better not watch it at slower speed. You might not get your back.
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. Yeah, I'll let somebody else figure that out for me. So that aside, Gwen even fails at doing her job because she wants to see him again, and that's big sad. And then her failing here gives Miguel ammo for the go-home machine scene. Side note, I'm also really glad this movie is starting to shift what people think. Maybe not David, but what people think of when they hear Gwen Stacy rather than Peter's dead girlfriend or the fallen girl, or insert gif of Gwen Stacy's neck snapping in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yes, it still hurts in my heart. They see her as this character now. And then, Miles and Gwen have the conversation about Gwen Stacy falling for Spider-Man in every other universe. Every other universe, it ends up going bad. And then he rizzes her up with the line, "There's a first time for everything, right? That's my boy. There you go. Hit her with it. Hit her with the line. I want them to succeed."
A few other cute notes, because some of this will be a repeat, but like I really like I wouldn't call it a whole like theme, but there's just like a little trend of like the lying between the two of them where they're not being honest with each other, and it like is a reason for a lot of like the miscommunication, like when they get to Spider-Man India's world and she's telling him to stay up there and he's like, no, I'll just go help. Why wouldn't you want to go help? But she can't tell him about the whole canon event thing and all of this because she can't tell him he's a problem, and like that resulting in a problem to like what Jelani says, eventually kind of culminating in like her being sent back home, which is like the one place she doesn't want to be because she became a risk with Miles, and now Miles is here. It's like that's the one person she wants to be with, so now she's like extra lost too, and like forcing her to face her father and something like she never really wanted to do in the first place. So like this kind of forces her to become super vulnerable with him and about like the complexities of living like as Spider-Woman and Gwen Stacy. And like I feel like within that whole sequence, like to me, I read it as like if you're vulnerable and like you're honest and you communicate, like there could be an actual catalyst for change, and like the dad retires and like now this canon event's avoided, right? So I don't know if like that's something that could happen for them later, you know, maybe Gwen Stacy doesn't have to die, maybe we can avoid that canon event with open and honest communication. And then I love like that Gwen then goes on to search for Miles, since like that was the thing she wasn't really doing in the beginning. She was in his universe, but she was doing it for the anomaly, and now like the anomaly she's searching for is him. So I thought that was kind of pretty. And yeah, we could talk about like that the parallel of her standing in his room while he does the same in a different universe is like a super effective shot to really emphasize where they are and their relationship. And I'd like the Miles arc also simultaneously being satisfied as he returns home and finally admits he is Spider-Man to his mother, the thing he couldn't do earlier, but doesn't realize he's in the wrong dimension, satisfying his arc of becoming lost after the world tells him he doesn't belong. and now the people who even root for him don't, as he's taken by himself. And
his dead uncle.
And his dead uncle, yes. And I love like when they do like that. They really emulate a camera movement really well when they do like the helicopter overhead pan into the big mural of his dad, and I was like, oh my god, Planet of the Apes! It's the Statue of Liberty. We're in the wrong dimension. And I also like, this is a little thing, but I love like even in the characters that they have for them to be jealous of and their relationship, like the Hobie and Spider Bite, they're not wasted. Like especially Hobie. Like Hobie, his lines are all super intentional and all of his actions are super intentional, and he has serious impact. So I love that they don't waste anybody, and it's not like anybody gets cheapened. But that's pretty much it.
I agree with the dual protagonist diagnosis. It does have to do a bit of a tricky balance. I think Gwen's arc feels closer to completion than Miles does at the end of this. Like, I think we have a decent amount more to get with Miles' arc. He kind of has one, but I think I wouldn't call it a full arc in this. I think hers is basically done.
It also starts and ends with her, so
that helps too. Yeah, because like if you want to take it as like a literal change from beginning to end, like we have that about as blatantly as you can with her like first and last shot, basically,
and then quitting and starting.
Yes, precisely. I think there is also an interesting balance with point of view here, because we never have quite as much information as Gwen, but we typically have a little bit more than Miles does. And I think that distances us from Gwen a little bit first time around. At least it did for me. Like, we're kind of more in Miles' headspace during each action. But with Gwen, we have a sense that she's maybe disobeying orders, but we don't really have full context the first time to like really understand the stakes of the choices she's making. I'm thinking especially of the Mumbattan sequence when Miles stops the cannon event. I tracked this time, or the second time, that they do actually say right before that happens, like Gwen gets a notification or somebody else says, hey, cannon event incoming.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that means yet, but textually it is there that once we do know that, we get access to her headspace. I need to stop this. But first time around, we just are, I think, supposed to, and I know I was, with Miles as, there's people down there, we need to save them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of doing this tricky balance, and I think it pulls it off, but it does, I think, end up favoring Miles in terms of point of view a little bit more. Rewatches is different in that regard, but I think this pulls it off gracefully, which again probably means that it's quite hard, or it was quite hard. I wonder if the next movie is going to be a dual protagonist, though. Like, are we gonna?
I don't think so.
I figure it's going to be at least, like, we're going to stick with Miles, but is it going to be as much Gwen's movie as this was?
I hope so.
I do too, but I would kind of guess that it's going to be a little bit less so, just because I feel like Gwen has a bit she has less to do, at least from what we can tell right now.
Yeah.
Going into it. There's a lot less to be resolved with her.
Well, she still has to fully apologize to him, so there's that.
There's that, but she makes up with her dad in this, and she, has the resolution with her, I'm starting a band now. So that finishes, basically both of the major conflicts for her in this movie. There's kind of not, whatever they do with her, if there is something, they kind of have to start something new within the third movie.
Maybe a dual protagonist of Miles and Peter parked car.
Maybe. I'd like to see. I didn't clock that the first time, but I was looking for it second time around. I don't know if I'm gonna watch them, but I know there's about to be, and probably already are, about 1 million videos about all the Easter eggs in this movie.
Oh yeah, all the suits.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I can't wait for that one. All the suits, where all of the suits come from, which issues.
And I'm sure you guys clocked that Genki is playing the Insomniac PS4 Spider-Man game.
It's the second one. He's
it's
playing the second one. He's doing illegal stuff because the second one isn't out yet.
Ooh. Or this just takes place in 2024.
Oh. was hoping for more of Genki.
Yeah, I kind of was too. Like, because he is kind of. Is he in the comics kind of supposed to be Miles' guy in the chair?
Shoot! I'm supposed to continue reading. I started reading from the beginning with Bendis's comic. I gotta continue.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that I read, he was very prominent in that one, and it didn't go terribly far, but he was
He's
a major
essentially
character.
Ned. Like what they did with Ned with the Tom Holland stuff is essentially Genki.
Okay.
So maybe they don't want it to feel repetitive. I mean, he at least had lines in this movie. He didn't even have lines.
Thank
in the
God.
No,
first
they didn't
one.
have a voice actor for the first one. They didn't even cast him. All right, shall we continue?
Yep.
Sacrifice and morals. This is my topic. It's a big one. It's a good old chunky one. What causes the Spider Society to turn on Miles, kick us off into the climax, is the fact that Miles believes he can save his dad and his world, as I mentioned before. Miguel and the others believe he has to let the canon event happen so his world doesn't fall apart like Miguel's did. I personally believe there's a lot Miguel is not telling them. And something is up with Lila the AI. That's my head canon. Something's up with him. He not telling the whole truth, because there's no way. Like, he went into the wrong world. Like, he didn't belong in that world, and then his world started falling apart. How is that anybody else's issue? Anyway, the trolley problem. Let's get into that. And I'll explain what it even has to do with this topic of sacrifice and morals. Well, you'll probably be able to figure out for yourself. There's a runaway trolley. It's headed down one track. You guys have probably heard this before. It's headed down one track and will kill 5 workers. There's a switch that will change the course of the trolley and send it into one worker, killing him but saving the 5. You're next to the switch that can change the track. The trolley goes down.
The way I've heard it is usually that the one person, though, is either somebody important to you or, like, somebody, like, some bigger figure, depending on what kind of thought experiment you're going for.
Yeah, there's different versions, added layers. It doesn't have to be a trolley. I think there was a footbridge version. You can do so much with this. And there's so many different versions of it. I looked it up, the trolley problem in movies, and the only one on the list that I had seen was The Dark Knight. So I wanted to talk about that example. Most relevant example I could think of, with the 2 boats at the end. Kill the prisoners and save yourselves. Let the prisoners decide. Let both blow up. Let the time run out and everybody dies. Or let Batman kick the trolley off the tracks. But this problem isn't only in movies. And I'm talking about this because, again, Miles has to save his dad. Miles wants to save his dad, but in saving his dad, he's being told by the quote-unquote hero that it will kill everybody in his world. If he lets his dad die, let the one person, one of his closest people to him, die, it saves his world. Again, that's what he's being told. The trolley problem isn't only in movies. There's a game called Life is Strange, and spoilers, you as the protagonist making decisions with time manipulation powers have to decide to let your friend die and to save the lives of everyone in your town, or let her live and let a hurricane that came from you messing with time take the entire town with it, and you and your friend drive off from it. Because I don't think, for whatever reason, people don't believe you or something and they don't run from it. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into decision making. This is a whole, I'm sure there are classes on it, or sections of classes on moral issues such as this. Sacrificing one to save the many, sacrificing the many to save the one, depending on who that one is, of course. And it's his dad, so how can you blame him? Do you guys have anything? You can stop me.
Well, I think Miguel's a big fat liar, and he
Yep.
cannot be trusted.
Yep, he's a vampire. So
Yeah, right. And Gwen's like, he's like a vampire, but like a good guy. And he's like, is that a thing? And then like when they're on the train, he's like, bro, are you even Spider-Man? And like, he's the least Spider-Man. Like, if we just go off the rules of Into the Spider-Verse, where anyone can wear the mask, you just have to be a good guy. He is the least Spider-Man of all of them. So don't trust him. And I'm with Hobie and Miles. You know, you gotta take the risk. I don't know you. You're gonna tell me to let my dad die? No.
Also, Hobie is a real bro in that escape scene, like right before Miles breaks out of the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
He
He
has
tells
that.
him to break it, and he's building
Yeah.
his own watch because he knows what's gonna happen. He's like, I
Yep.
gotta go fix this for these people.
Yep. He's fixing the watches. He's talking to Miles about him having good parents and whatnot. And I don't know why, but I think the way he just delivered the line when I think it's Jessica Drew, Spider Woman says, "You're not helping Hobie," and he just says "good" as he darts his
Yeah.
eyes at it. I was like, "Oh, he's so cool." And then he helps Miles with the palms. He tells him earlier,
Yep.
much earlier. It's like he knew much earlier to use his palms instead of just his fingertips, and he escapes. And then there's the meme of Miles staring at his hands and then darting away. Sacrifice. Speaking of sacrifice as the topic. Oh yeah, this is what Evan was saying earlier. I don't remember who to credit. My brother showed me this from a YouTube short. Into the Spiderverse, the scene where Blonde Peter, Miles, their spider senses are going off as they're staring at each other, it's going back and forth. Miles' spider sense color goes from purple and green to red and blue, showing the change that he will no longer be that world's prowler, and seals Blonde Peter's fate. So Blonde Peter unknowingly sacrifices his life so that Miles can be that world's Spider-Man. I found an interesting comment in the comment section of the 5 Month song on YouTube from Daniel Pemberton. Shout out to Nehemiah Fualau. I probably butchered that. I'm so sorry. His comment goes, quote, "Miles is like a blank canvas. He's an anomaly. So he doesn't have a canon event. If he changes something, that just becomes a part of his story. For every other Spider-Man, it's almost like set in stone, but Miles was never supposed to happen. So his story can go in multiple directions, the writing in these films is just incredible. And that is not something I considered. And that is big brain. So shout out to you. You guys have any more on the topic? Because I have a note to end this off with before we go into the next one.
I'm interested to see where this goes in the next movie because we haven't really seen the consequences of his choice yet. So it's interesting to talk about it right now where we have to grapple with it without knowing the results. I think the most interesting part of the movie in terms of this conversation is a scene I mentioned earlier when he saves the people in Mumbattan where he wasn't supposed to.
Yep.
Because saving his dad really is kind of the same thing, but now he just knows the consequences. But truly, it's the same thing. It's just that now it's someone he cares about, and he has been given knowledge of the stakes. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. David, I think you were talking about it earlier that you think Miguel is lying. I don't, but I wonder if he maybe is kind of being a victim of bad science or bad research here. Clearly there's a connection between the dimensions unraveling and the canon events. I don't think he's lying in his explanation of that to Miles, but I wonder if maybe he's misdiagnosing it or finding like a false connection, a false correlation between the two that's going to be revealed in the third one. And that's kind of why like this is so complicated, because Miles is just having to take all of this on faith from a guy that he has just met.
He threw away the empanada.
He threw away the empanada, yeah. But it just complicates it because there isn't a clear one-to-one whether like I think your comparison to the trolley problem is very valid here, and to The Dark Knight. In both cases with both of these movies, I think it's not an exact trolley problem. It's the trolley problem with a bit more of a twist in it, where like in this case Miles isn't really sure if there's people on the other track. He knows his dad is on one.
It's a tunnel.
It's a tunnel.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know, like, the other track might have every other universe on it. Or it might be empty.
That's why I said it's a tunnel. He can't see it.
He can't see it. Okay, yes. Tunnel. Sorry, I didn't quite see your metaphor there, but yes. That's a better image that I was That's a good image for it. And with the Dark Knight example also, the Joker is telling everyone this is the situation. We don't get to find out if that was true, because neither of them blow each other up.
Mm-hmm.
There's an element of distrust with the person setting up the game, kind of. Also, there is one other example. I don't like it, but Spider-Man 1 has a pretty clear trolley problem at the end.
Oh.
Let's die the moment you learn, or suffer the little children. Like,
He can do both. He does do both.
he does both.
Because he's Spider-Man.
Because he's Spider-Man.
But I mean, that's about as literal of a trolley problem as I think I've ever seen in a movie. Outside of probably The Good Place, but that is like actually messing with the actual thought experiment in that case.
We couldn't even go through the sequel without mentioning it, but it's still relevant. So.
I can't believe we made it through the first
great
episode
film.
never mentioning, and they even do the Bully Maguire dance in in that movie, and we didn't bring it up.
This one isn't directly referenced. Also, Donald Glover is the
Donald
Prowler?
Glover. Yes!
He's the
I
Prowler?
was so psyched when he showed
Isn't that
up.
awesome? That's so good for him.
It's so cool.
That's like the best thing to ever happen.
He's like one of my top 5 favorite celebrities.
They're making a live action Miles. They got the Kraven the Hunter October 6th. Sony's trying to do a live action Sinister Six, but they don't have a Spider-Man yet, which is why I think the Miles movie was announced. So I think they're trying to do a Sinister Six with Miles.
I don't want them to do Miles.
I don't know what their plan is.
No, I mean, like, I love that Sony has this duo trilogy going for them, but I feel like every other decision they make, they're just whiffing.
They have Venom, Morbius.
Well, they have Spider-Man and anything connected to him, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
I meant to mention this last episode, but I'll remind you guys and the listeners that the movie that Sony Animations put out before Into the Spider-Verse was the Emoji Movie.
Oh, God.
So their track record prior to this has been pretty bad. And I'm glad they have a win. I am so grateful that we have this. But also, like, they are... I guess they're selling a lot of PlayStations, so they're doing okay. But in terms of movies, they're, like, not... They're trying, but they've just, like, lost all their big properties and can't get anything else going, it seems.
That's why they keep making these Spider-Man movies, because if they don't, they'll lose the rights. And if they lose the rights, they ain't got much else that I know of. I don't know. No disrespect.
I don't know anything else that they, like... I think they're Columbia, but, like, they don't have that brand recognition like Warner and Disney do. Yeah, one other note, I guess, before we get into your last question, Jelani. I was thinking about how, like, sacrifice has always been central to Spider-Man in the other movies, and I assume all other
part
media.
of the job. It's what you signed up for.
And the canon events feel like a rationalization of that pain, but Miles' existence and, like, his choices in this movie kind of poses the question of whether pain is necessary for spider people to exist. Like, just because something good came out of those painful experiences, was that necessary? Uncle Aaron's death being a canon event, or at least Miguel marks it as a canon event, that kind of complicates it. But it is a bit different than the Uncle Ben death, because Spider-Man doesn't become Spider-Man until after that. Like, because of Uncle Ben's death. Miles didn't, like, he does get his, like, final form suit afterward, like we talked about in the last episode, but it's not as, like, essential to his origin as Uncle Ben's death. So I wonder if they're going to explore that more in the next one. I assume we're definitely going to have some kind of continued evolution of what the canon events are and that kind of thing, but TBD on what that's going to look like. I'm interested.
I think it was the connecting thing that sent Miles into the leap of faith. It was Uncle Aaron's death into his talk with his dad, and then the leap of faith. Yeah,
it's like there is a connection there, but it is functionally different, because, like, I think in any version, at least the ones that I know of, Peter's just using his powers a little bit randomly pre-Uncle Ben death. Mm-hmm. And then afterward is when he becomes Spider-Man, which is not really the same case with Miles.
Yeah. I'm ending this off with what y'all doing. What y'all boys doing? If you don't know whether there's a way to save your dad in your world, what are you picking? Me personally, I wouldn't let that happen to me. But I'm going with Miles' decision. Forget the algorithm. And there's no way to know if what Miguel is saying is entirely true anyway. So far, he's the only one that's experienced it that we know of, and it's because he was in a world where he didn't belong. So, F him.
I feel like I gotta say I mean, Father's Day was 2 days ago.
Oh, no. That's not a good start.
No, in reality, like, is it, if it's between the person you love and, like, I think I'm saving the one, but I don't know. I could go either way. I'm waffling.
Okay. All right. David, what's your answer?
Oh yeah, I said it earlier. I'm going with Miles. Miguel is giving me like evangelical white man burden tease, and the way he's just recruiting these people, and he's like, this is why you feel this pain, and come with me and I'll lead you to this society where you don't have to feel this pain. Like, I can't trust him. And the hypocrisy of calling Miles an anomaly when you're breaking the timeline, jumping yourself and causing this whole disruption. And why did you survive it? Did you jump out before it got you? Why didn't you help anyone else, Spider-Man? So I don't trust him.
And the Spider Society is in his world. Also, he's part vampire. Like, how? Yeah, I don't like him. But if that's it for that topic, let's move on to the final topic. This movie's identity as a part 1, Evan's topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is far from the only movie that exists as a part 1, but I feel like it, to me, feels less complete than the others that I've seen. The one that it feels most similar to me is Dune, but that's also a book adaptation, which is a little bit different, because I think that gets about 60% of the way through the book, if I remember right. And we're getting part 2 later this year, so we'll kind of get to see how the second one hits. We're also apparently next month getting Dead Reckoning Part 1, Mission Impossible. And that is also an original, not based on a book. So we'll see how that handles it, because apparently that's going to be a Part 1, Part 2, like basically exactly the same as this, where they're doing Part 2 next year.
We're in that era again. Remember they were doing that for all the young adult movies?
Yeah, that's most of the ones I'm comparing this to, but like that's why I wanted to bring this up, because a lot of those are book adaptations. Like The Hobbit is, splitting that book in 3. And
Harry Potter.
Dumb Decision, Harry Potter,
Hunger Games, Maze Runner,
Divergent. Yeah, I never saw Mockingjay, the Divergent ones. So.
Twilight.
Oh yeah, Twilight. I never saw those.
All young adult part. Wow.
It was a good way to get more money out of people. I don't know if most of them work, because I didn't see most of them. Like,
me neither.
Deathly Hallows is the one I was thinking about a lot with this, because like Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my favorite movie of that series. I don't think Deathly Hallows Part 1 is anyone's favorite. If I'm wrong, then I apologize. But like, I feel like that is just the most obligatory. Just like, we got to get through the first 3 Horcruxes or whatever in that one, just so we can get all the good stuff. I was thinking about it in terms of act structure, too, because I'm sure somebody could break this into 3-act structure, but it would be pretty messy, I feel like, to do it in the traditional way. Like, I feel like I can't break this into a clean 3-act structure. Do you guys feel like you can? Okay.
I feel like I can't either. Until they release the script, I think it's going to be really hard for me to even, like, because I tried to by like the 3rd and 4th film, like really, and I didn't want to take my phone out to track the time, but I was just like, I don't know where we are right now. Like, this could be the 1st or 2nd act, or 3rd or 2nd or 3rd.
Nah. There's just a lot of, I think it threw me off because it was just a lot of falling action post the climax. I didn't realize the climax was the climax because I was expecting more. But
so what do you consider the climax?
The train.
Okay,
same. Do you consider the first act break when they go through the portal?
Yes.
Okay.
Halfway point is Peter B's introduction.
Okay.
But like, so I hear all that. I feel like if you were gonna break it into act structure, I hear you there, Jelani, with those beats. The timing is like, and not to be like Sid Field, Blake Snyder dogmatic about it, but like the timing of that is way off from what most models
definitely
will teach you.
But you could still fit it.
I was thinking about the train sequence as the climax too when I was watching it last night. I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is the climax. And then I was like, wait, right, there's like 20 more minutes of stuff that happens, and it's not like it's just resolution. It's like big things happen in those 20 minutes. If that's the climax, then we don't even really have names for the beats that come after that, because
it's all falling
after
action.
The climax,
it's just big falling action.
I guess, but unless it's Return of the King, like, there's almost no other movie that does that.
Big falling action.
Yeah. You could I think that's a perfectly fine way to name it. It is just very different. And not in a bad way, I don't think. Like, I'm glad that this didn't feel the need to give us like to wrap everything up nicely and to lead into, and I think it exists as its own thing decently enough. Like, I don't feel dissatisfied. I think I did in the first few minutes after leaving the theater, but right now I don't. But there's like, Spot leaves the movie for the entire second half.
Oh, we didn't even talk about him.
Yeah, like because we set him up, and then after the Mumbattan scene, he's just gone. They flash to him once at the end just to kind of be like, hey, remember, he's here.
Yep.
But there's no resolution with that. So that feels a little bit dissatisfying. And you kind of have like this balance where they're really front loading everything with Miles and his parents, and then they backload everything with the spider people. None of this is a problem, to be clear. It's just, it did throw me off a bit. Like, I remember the first time watching it, and I knew it was a part one going in, but there were a few points where I was like, oh, is this going to be it? Right? Like, is right here where they're going to end it? I think that happened like 4 different times. I know one of them was the train, when he's like I thought it might end right when he jumped off the train, and then maybe it was going to end right when he sent himself back to Universe 42. By the time it was the real ending, I could tell. I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's definitely going to be here.
It's the music.
It's the music, and it's the ending voiceover with Gwen.
Oh, yeah.
But there were a few, like, where I was like, oh, it's going to be here. No, it's not. Okay. We got another few minutes. And I think that there were a few, like, it did kind of throw me. And again, not a problem, but it's rare that I feel that thrown, because I mean, I know, Jelani, you've mentioned how you often have like the curse of watching something just being like, oh, here's this beat. Okay, I know it's coming, and for the next 30 minutes or whatever.
Yep.
Just because you've learned 3-act structure.
It'd be like that. I mean, I'm surprised. Don't we all have it?
Yeah, I feel like I've trained myself out of it a little bit, or like I just try to not think about it too much. But I know, like, the first several months after I learned 3-act structure, I could not think about it. Watching anything, I was just like, oh, there it is. Yep, end of Act 2.
I can immerse myself a bit more now, definitely. Like,
yeah,
forget
but it's
about
kind of
it.
something you have to unlearn almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you got to just like watch certain things that kind of shake off 3-act structure,
Right.
and deliberately seek that kind of stuff out.
I normally don't notice until the climax hits, and I'm like, oh, okay, the movie's gonna end.
Yeah, I feel like the one that's it depends on the type of movie too, because like kids movies, it's always so easy to track.
Yeah.
I also love, this is a side note, but I thought it was hilarious when I watched the Mario movie. Have you guys seen it?
No.
I thought it was hilarious how they basically structure the acts in that around the items. Like, I laughed out loud when I was like, oh, the end of Act 2 is a blue shell. Because the worst thing that can happen to you in a Mario game is getting hit by a blue shell.
Oh my
That's
God.
kind of perfect.
Wow.
And then the climax is the star. I was like, this is a dumb movie, but like that's kind of fun that they like just literally based the act structure on the items. I think this is just an interesting example because the way I'm reading it, and again, not to discount your breakdown of it, Jelani, but if we're looking at like the one I hear you the most on that I definitely felt in the theater was when he follows Gwen into the portal
Oh yeah,
That really feels end of Act 1. But that's also probably like an hour into the movie.
That's what trips me
Yeah.
out. And I never take my phone out because it's so good. But I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
Like,
and
is
then
this
if the
allowed?
midpoint is like Spot getting away, like that means Act 2A is maybe 10 minutes. Like that to me is not like there's not enough that happens in there for it to be an act. So what I'm thinking might have happened here is that we're going to get like a more traditional 3-act structure across both of these movies, and we ended this at like probably the midpoint, maybe a little bit after.
I think it is because
I don't see how it can be before. Yeah. Oh yeah, Mary Jane does say half. I didn't even
He's
track
like,
that.
it's halftime. We gotta reassess.
Oh,
I'm like, oh yeah,
wow.
this is the first. This is the part 1 break. This is literally the half. Cool. So that's why I really do think like this is half a movie, like one big giant movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say as part of my notes. It doesn't feel complete. No, there are arcs, so it does feel like a movie on its own in a bit. A bit. When I heard the intro music building again, I remembered hearing this was supposed to be a part 1. I think I said that before. My brother and my one of his friends and my dad ended up liking it slightly less because it ended on a cliffhanger.
My younger sister said the same thing. She was like, "I loved it, but I hated the ending." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I get that."
To
Yeah.
them, I say their opinion is their own, but it's also wrong. We know the movie is coming out in less than a year, so be patient.
We hope.
Oh God, I forget about pushbacks, and there's still a writer's strike going on. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's.
I hope at least if they push it back, they use the time to like perfect it. Because I was
Yeah.
glad when we heard that this was going to be like a long way away. I was like, good, don't make this 2
Yeah.
years. This deserves way more. Like, get it right. Give
Yeah.
it to me, but get it right.
Yeah, that's why any delay they might give us, I'm like, work, do what you need, take all the time, because I know it's good. This time is worth it for you. You have proven yourself twice.
I don't think a comparison to the first movie is necessary because it's a sequel to the first movie. I don't think that makes any sense. I don't know why I wrote that, but to play along, no, it's not better than the first in my opinion. I think it's just as good. Literally everything from the first movie is ramped up, especially the animation, but also the voice acting, the colors, all of it. Music. I think the music is ramped up. No, well, not ramped up like as far as hype, like the first one, but there's a lot of good music in this one, just as much as the first. I think. Anything else?
Well, I want to ask, and it's okay if you guys don't have answers, but what other like part 1-ish movies does this feel the most like to you guys? Because I was thinking about a lot of other part 1s.
Infinity War.
So I thought about Infinity War as one of them, but I feel like Infinity War still feels more complete than this. Like, yes, it's a part 1. Yes, it's pretty clearly setting up Endgame, but it feels like you can totally see that as its own movie in a way that I feel like I walked out of the theater with this not thinking like I don't think I'm gonna know how to feel about it until I watch the third one. And I don't fully feel like that anymore.
I was way angrier. With, because I didn't know. I think I knew, but forgot about it again, like this movie.
With Infinity War?
In theaters with Infinity War. I was so mad when I first walked out the theater, like they ended it there. How dare they?
But it still it definitely feels like a complete movie. Like, I don't feel like it's Endgame Part 1 in the same way that this really feels like a Part 1. Like, you can definitely track act structure across Infinity War way clearer than you can.
Well, that's because
this.
there's a different protagonist, too. It's Thanos.
Yeah, but I feel like they just hit those beats in a much more... like, this just feels like they stretch stuff way out. Like, Infinity War is just like, we are packing, like, a ton of stuff into this. But it's still, like, I think I'd have a much easier time tracking act structure in Infinity War than this.
This feels like the beginning parts of a big movie, is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, or even, like a TV episode. Like, I wanted to click watch next
Oh,
or like skip credits, whatever the button is,
yeah.
as soon as this ended.
Well, I wouldn't skip these credits because the music's good.
Oh no, I stayed for the credits even though I knew there was no post credits.
Their credits are such art.
Oh,
Mm,
so
mm,
good.
mm,
And I
mm,
stayed through it all just to see the little Beyond symbol and just like the logo, and I was like, yes, I am here.
I did stay for just the right after, not the full credits, but the right after credits, like with all the art and stuff, just to see if anything popped up. And I think that's when the Beyond thing popped up.
Yeah.
Miles will return or something. I don't know what it said.
Well, David, do you have any part ones that this feels like to you, or I don't know?
Honestly, no, because when I think of part ones, I feel like one, and maybe this will change when Beyond comes out, but I think as of now, like when I think of a part one, I always think like one ends up being favored and the other one I never want to watch. Like with It chapter 1 and chapter 2, like I just need the first one and I never need the second. And like you were saying with Deathly Hollows, like I never watch part one. Like if I'm doing like I'm gonna sit down and watch them all, I'll force myself to struggle through it. But like best believe it's like I'm cleaning my room, I'm on my phone, I'm not actually watching that movie.
No, like Deathly Hallows Part One is like like it's homework to watch that one.
Right, like it's just I don't need it. And then with part two, I like enjoy myself so much. And then like so to me, I don't know, like I feel like this I feel satisfied every time I saw it in the theaters. I never felt dissatisfied, even though a lot of my friends shared a lot of everybody like, oh, why is it a cliffhanger? That's terrible. I want the end of the movie. But like I never felt cheated and like I enjoy it and I feel like not only do I think I'm going to really like how it plays into and becomes like a lot of setups that become great payoffs for Beyond, but I really love that like it wasn't just like a throwaway sequel in a trilogy. Like it really added to what we saw in Into the Spider-Verse and like recontextualized certain things and like did what a good sequel should do, especially a second part in a trilogy. So I'm really satisfied with it. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like I can't think of another one that like does it that well. Because like even The Godfather, it's like I can watch one on its own and I can watch two on its own. I never want to watch three. So I don't know. I can't think of one that feels the same way.
I think once Beyond comes out, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch this one without I don't think I'm going to be able to watch one without watching the other.
Like immediately after.
Yeah, like even I'd probably feel weird if I just saw Beyond by itself, which is how it'll work in the theaters. But once Beyond comes out, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch just this one by itself. Like, I'd want to see the ending again.
Yeah, because I feel like they have to, like, with the way that they tease at the end, like, how is Beyond not going to pick up the instant that this end, like, with Miles, like, charging his finger up, like, how do you tease that and not have the first scene of the movie be anything except him strapped to the Prowler's thing, unless you, like, at least the first scene with Miles. Maybe we'll do, like, a cold open with somebody else.
The Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, yeah, that... What does that have a name? Didn't that?
I don't know.
Spider.
I saw it whip out from its ankle, and that was the funniest thing.
So fun that they added that. But it made me think of two Keanu Reeves movies. John Wick 2. Like, this feels like very much like the end of John Wick 2 in a certain way, although that definitely is a much different. Like that is definitely its own movie on its own. But also Matrix Reloaded, kind of, and I've only seen that once and it was a while ago, but that felt like it had a similar amount of like, we're gonna tease the next one, but it has a more clearly defined climax and like proportionate falling action, resolution, denouement, whatever you want to call it, is like, to my memory, pretty quick. It's like, only about 5 minutes. Whereas by Jelani's act breakdown, like, we have probably around 20 minutes of falling action in this movie. But those were two that I thought of. Just like to throw in others that I had for the list. Dead Man's Chest, Lord of the Rings, and the Kill Bills.
Ooh, Dead Man's Chest is a really good one, actually.
Yeah.
That's the second one.
With the heart being missing, that actually is a really comparable one.
Going after Jack, right?
You know what? I changed my answer. I would say that is the one that gives me the most vibes to this.
I think it has comparisons, but there's also such a clear... Jack's arc in that movie really makes it feel complete on its own. Like, I feel like you can totally treat At World's End and Dead Man's Chest as totally separate. Even though, and there's a little bit of a time jump. That's another thing with some of these part ones. Like, Dune, I'm pretty sure it cuts off... There's going to be a time jump for part 2. There definitely is that with Infinity War and Endgame. And what was the other one? That you mentioned, David. There's a huge time jump between 1 and 2 for those. And I think Godfather as well, although I don't know if I would count those as much as... I know they call it part 2 and part 3, but I don't feel like... And I haven't seen the third movie, to be fair. But those do not hit for me as as much of a part 1. They feel more like traditional sequels. Did you guys want to... There were a few YA book examples that you guys brought up that I haven't seen. Do those belong in the conversation at all? I can't speak on it. Okay.
They don't do nothing.
Yeah. I did want to talk about it with this, though, because I feel like most of those are... Like, the part 1s we have are book adaptations, which is different because at least some people know the rest of the story. And, like, in some cases, there's just a very clear demarcation of, that's where you're going to end it. But sometimes, like, Deathly Hallows, I feel like it's pretty arbitrary. It was just like, all right, we got to get through everything. Let's make these basically the same length, but, like, make sure we get all the important stuff in part 2. So it was just like, all right, Dobby's death. Yeah, I guess that's good. We'll call it there. Spoilers.
I don't care.
You might, if we ever get you to read those.
Pay me. You'd have to pay me for that.
Well, I
you
think we
getting
should
me
do it
to
on
read.
Patreon, but let's talk about that after.
Getting me to read no Harry pot roast.
Harry Potter.
That was so bad. I'm so sorry.
That's the end of the topic. You had one more question, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm doing really well with these ending topic questions. Good job, me. What do you think is this movie's leap of faith, if any? The train sequence, do you think it has a leap of faith at all? I don't think it does. There are hype moments, but nothing matches that. I'm not asking what matches that. I'm asking if this movie has a big old chunky moment like that. Maybe it's when he zaps Miguel. Now I'm going to do my own thing. I don't know.
I feel like if it's anything, it's that. But I don't think they were trying to one-up leap of faith there. Maybe they will in the third one, though.
It's cool.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything like any intention to one of it, but for me, like that was the moment that like leap of faith. I get the chills every time. It's that line, and then like the jump off and his flip down, and then him breaking the web with Gwen. It's just like that beat hitting. It's so tragic. It's a very beautiful moment in that film.
No, y'all better fix this.
I wonder what this is kind of going back to the last topic, but in terms of the third one, the biggest thing that they're teasing, and this was another thing I wondered if it was going to be the climax of this one, is him saving his dad is like the main tease we have for the third one. So I'm really curious when that's going to happen in the next movie. I hope it's early, because if that's like the one thing that we're getting teased, I want it to come pretty quickly, so that way I have no idea what's going to happen for the rest. But I could also see it being a really good climax. I trust them either way.
I think either one of you said it, or I read it somewhere, or heard it somewhere, that it's going to be a fake out with Prowler Miles. Like, they're going to team up or something, but I don't see that happening. Because he was like, yo, Dad, it's not my dad you're trying to save. Why would I let you go? And he puts his fist up against the thing, and then they're staring at each other. And did you notice that Prowler Miles has First of all, I didn't know they was not Shamik Moore. It's Jarrell Jerome who was voicing Prowler Miles. And did you notice he has an accent?
Mm-hmm.
When he says his own name, he rolls the R in Morales.
I did not clock that.
Because he was raised by his mother. You see?
And
do you
his-
see the
yeah,
levels to this?
his
Do you see the
Spanish is
the
better.
details?
Blah.
This movie crazy, bro. I'm sure there's gonna be so much more once the movie's out on DVD. There's gonna be so much pausing when I rewatch it. Like, it's gonna take me double the amount of time that this movie has to get through it, because I'm gonna be like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh, that's what that said? I didn't even clock that in the theater. Oh, there's subtitles for when they were speaking in Spanish. Great. I wanted subtitles.
There's subtitles for when Hobie's speaking in English.
Oh, I need the captions for Hobie. There were a couple of moments. I know I missed probably a good 40% of them, but when they have the text boxes, there were a few that I caught that were really funny. My favorite was early on when they're fighting the Vulture. I think Miguel says he has hammer space, and then there's a box that pops up that's like, hammer space is where like a cartoon character can just pull something out of thin air. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
There's a pause sequence or just a screenshot again on Reddit. I saw a post where when their web snap, when they're trying to hold the building, the snaps are in different fonts. So Gwen's web, when it snaps, is in her font. Hobie's is in like newspaper font. Miles is in a different font, and then all of their webs snap at the same time, and then each letter represents a different spider. Like, bro, this movie,
It's nuts.
They be doing the thing, bro.
And speaking of fonts, you guys remember the font guy anomaly? It's like a blinking you'll miss it thing. But they like have he goes, go to Helvetica, Spider-Man.
Oh, Helvetica.
and it's all in different.
He was like, that's bold.
In all the different fonts. I gotta watch that one slow, because like the joke is great on its own, but like I know I missed like there's gotta be like 12 Easter eggs just in that one shot.
Just that whole thing with the villains captured. The boring rhino, you got Mist, Stereo.
Yeah.
The PS4 Spider-Man was behind the two video game Spider-Man. Well, they're all video game Spider. You get what I'm saying?
Who's the like short, like 2D
spectacular
animated?
Spider-Man?
That's who that is. My first theater like freaked
Josh
out
Keaton.
for him, and I couldn't hear what he said.
Josh Keaton. Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, I remember watching some episodes of the show and loving it when I was a kid, but
It's a great show.
Somewhere, and I have yet to rewatch just all of it together. So I need to do that still. People are still calling for that to come back because I don't think it ended well.
No, it was abrupt.
And people hated the art style for whatever reason. I was just like, that's what drew me to the show, the art style. So I don't get it, but whatever. There's so much more to talk about. As far as just Easter eggs and little things that happened in this movie. I think Uncle Aaron greeted Miles, our 1610 Miles, with a hey.
Yes, I clocked that second time.
I didn't write all of it down, man. Y'all gotta watch it. If you have not seen it and you listen to this podcast, what are you doing? What are you doing? You need to go ahead and it's such a good movie.
Get it while it's still in theaters.
Yeah, please do. It's definitely something you should watch in theaters.
You got to.
I think that's it for. If you guys have any other lingering notes, I got through everything I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm good.
I guess my last thing will be, I love how Spider-Man India's hair is outside of his mask.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
A fun detail.
That's cool.
I love the Spot. I love how they made him like such an actual scary villain. And I think like in a world where the Spiderverse is so art influenced and there's so many different styles and colors, to have like the big arch nemesis to just be these scribbles that go crazy and are ugly, and they're like he's not a color, he's shades of black and white. It's just this really like good filmmaking. And finally, my only prediction is that Miles better come home with a cake.
Oh no, it's like the what was it eggs
Yeah, the eggs from
from
Amazing Spider-Man
Spider-Man?
1.
You're gonna be
Oh,
holding a nice normal cake, and he better be. He better get that damn cake.
but
That's all.
I hope they stick the landing with Beyond the
Eh,
Spider-Verse coming out March 29th, 2024 as of right now. Yeah, what a great movie. Go see it. Boilerplate.
Yeah. So our next episode is going to be Mission Impossible, the original.
That was supposed to come before this, but
It
this
was,
movie was
but this was
too
too
good.
good.
Yeah.
I don't know why we kidded ourselves into thinking we weren't going to talk about this
I
first.
don't either.
Um,
I think, isn't this the first movie we've talked about? No, I think Infinity War might have been before it was out of theaters.
no, it was Endgame. We did that. We may have done it. The Batman. I think we did it with the Batman as well, and maybe.
Okay.
I feel like there must have been something else.
Well, we've never seen a movie as many times as we have with this before discussing it while it's still in theaters.
I did Everything Everywhere twice, but that was just me.
I saw it once, and then David, how many times did you see it?
3.
So still not
technically
enough.
this beats it.
Yep, this beat
yeah,
this.
it
It
collectively
wins.
among all of us, like total viewings, yeah.
It was a 2, 2, and 4.
Yeah, so 8.
8 times.
8 in theaters.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's not surprising, considering that it's the sequel to our collective favorite, so...
I'm gonna try to get 3 in. I don't think I've ever done more than 2.
I've
I'm
never
try to
done
get-
more than 2.
I'm gonna try to get 3 in with Beyond.
Yeah, other boilerplate things, we have our YouTube channel, more video essays coming in the future, hopefully. We have our Patreon with watch-alongs. If you are at all interested in terms of Mission Impossible, we have our Mission Impossible 2 watch-along on there, which is a good time with a bad movie. Truly, I think it's the best way to watch that movie, is to do it with our commentary. Yes, it's biased, but also it's just goofy, so have fun with it. Our logo is by Kelsey Hendry. I am on Letterboxd at ev_Wes. Where are you guys at?
Twitter, Jelani T. Kelly. Instagram, Jelani T. Kelly. YouTube, Jelani T. Kelly.
I am in Gwen Stacy's band. They don't
Yeah.
know it, but
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm going to play saxophone. They didn't
Yeah.
ask for it, but I'm going to.
I'm in the band and I'm jumping. We're all Beyond the Spiderverse.
I am in the band playing air guitar. Or, David, I thought you were going to go for being in one of Spot's holes.
Ooh, that's actually good too. Yeah, because they're like really deep and expansive. And you can
Okay,
listen
what
to
are we
get nice and
talking
warm.
about? We were doing so well.
Yeah, we were just talking about Spot's deep black holes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going after the ATM machine.
Yeah, because he can fit like a lot. Like that was a really wide ATM machine.
Yeah, I just
and that
gotta
was
store
really deep
stuff.
black hole.
I don't have a very big closet. Where am I gonna put all my disc golf discs?
No, nothing about the closet with Spot. Just holes.
Oh, I didn't even realize I did.
Y'all are wild, bro. Thank you for listening.
Yep.
Bye bye.
See you next time.